An interview about interviews, next on Issues and Insights.
This is what is making news right now. As attacks continue.
The question on all our minds, will giant bugs take over the city?
This is as close as we dare go to this huge blue.
A massive kill of wildlife in the state of Arkansas.
This is just a nice little bonfire like we had earlier.
Who are trying to calculate the exact amount of oil coming out of there.
Welcome back to another episode of Issues and Insights. My name is Katie Meyer, and today we will be talking about interviewing for a job. My guests are Dr. Sherry Ween, Associate Communications Professor, and Brittany Barton, Undergraduate Admissions Counselor. Dr. Ween, you teach business and professional communication here at Monmouth, and one of your assignments for your students is a mock job interview. Can you tell us a little bit about what your students have to do for that assignment?
Well, in my classes, I like to have the students come up with a fictional organization that they'd like to be for the semester. So, for example, I have two sections this semester. One class is a fictional brewery called Buzz Light Brewery in Brooklyn, New York. And the other is a bar restaurant in Belmar called Stumble Inn. So the mock interview, the students come up with positions that they would like to interview for, and they're also serving as both the person applying for the job and also the interviewer. And then there's a third person who's actually got a camera and is recording the interview. So that the person who's going out for the job can look at themselves later on and see what they did well. So it's an opportunity for them to play three different roles. And they learn that it's actually harder to be the interviewer than it is to be the candidate. Because a lot of people know how to prepare for a job interview. You know, but it's learning the questions, it's learning how to sell yourself. And for the interviewer, it's learning how to listen. Listen to what the person is saying and think of what are some follow-up questions you can ask. So they have a lot of fun. They dress up the way they're supposed to dress for a job interview. And it's pretty quick. So it's a 15-minute each time, and they rotate around. And they really learn on the spot about how to talk about their real resume. They're showing their real resume, how they would apply for a position in this particular job. And I want them to do research about the job as well, so they can talk about those jobs.
That sounds like a lot of work and like it's really helpful.
It's a lot of work to prepare for a job interview because you need to do your homework. You need to know yourself, and you need to know the company and the position that you're going out for.
And Brittany, you're an undergraduate admissions counselor, but you also interview students for the ambassador position here at Monmouth. Can you tell us a little bit about the interview process students have to go through?
Absolutely. I employ about 40 Monmouth University students to be our tour guides on campus, also our office workers in the office. So for my students, they usually fill out a pretty basic application to give me an idea of who they are as a person, what they're involved with on campus, what makes them excited to be a Monmouth University student, and why they'd like to share their experiences with prospective students and families. After that, they'll sign up to actually be a part of a group interview. So they'll sit with me, one of my lead ambassadors, so one of my senior student ambassadors, and then usually a group of no more than 5 or 6 other students who are applying, and we sort of talk about, again, their experiences on campus, why they feel like they'd be a good fit for this program, why they want to share their experiences with us. So we do more of a group interview format.
And why do you pick a group interview? Because I've been in group interviews and I don't enjoy it at all. So why do you do a group interview? Is there a specific reason you do it? Or?
I had originally started, when I started the program, I started using individual interviews. And what I found with what I was interviewing for, students were nervous. They were very uptight. They were trying to give me the answer that they thought I wanted to hear instead of actually giving me sort of truthful answers, truthful responses. So I felt that in the group interview setting, they were able to sort of bounce off of each other a little bit more. I got to really find out who they were as a person, who they would be as a team member, how they would interact with other people. And those are all really important qualities that I look for in a good student ambassador and a good tour guide. So I felt like I was getting a more true picture of the student in the group interview format, as opposed to when I was doing the individual interviews. So.
And how much do you think the resume counts towards getting a job, or is it the interview that counts the most, do you think?
Well, when you're applying for a job, the resume is what's going to get you an interview, right? So you need to make sure that your interview, your resume is tailored for that company and that position. And then if it really comes to the top of the pile and saying, okay, this person seems to be the most qualified, then you'll get the call that, okay, we'd like you to come in for an interview. But the interview is really a way to sort of get more details, to find out more about how this person is in real life, not just on paper. So when you are in an interview, it's closing the deal. It's telling the person really more about yourself, and it's a chance for you to find out more about the position, because you have to decide if you want this job.
Right.
So the interview is a good way for you to know if you want this job, and a good way for the employer to know, okay, this person in person is the best person for this job.
Okay. We need to take a short break, so let's hold that thought. And we'll be right back with more issues and insights.
Hey.
Ready to go?
Yeah, but the fire's not out.
It's close enough.
Close enough? If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. I mean, the next thing you know, you've torched our whole neighborhood.
Which is why we're not going anywhere?
Exactly. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to Issues and Insights. My name is Katie Meyer, and before the break, we were talking to Dr. Sherry Ween and Brittany Barton about interviewing for a job. Okay, so what should an interviewee wear the day of the interview?
You want to start with that?
Sure. I think that you should definitely take into consideration what position you're applying for and dress appropriately to that position. So for me, with my student ambassadors, I have had students come in dressing professionally, and I've also had students who come in their Monmouth apparel, just something that's more business casual. I definitely, when I have a student come in with their dress pants on and a nice button-up shirt, looking more professional, I definitely take that student more seriously. I think that they are more focused on the position and more serious about getting the position and, you know, more interested, I guess. But at the same time, for me, I don't take points off for a student coming in more business casual or in their formal, regular wear. So, but other positions would be, of course, different. So.
Right, and what Brittany was saying is you need to know what's appropriate for that job. So if you don't know, call and ask. Say, you know, what's the typical dress code for your workplace? Some places are going to be more conservative, so you want to find out what someone would wear and dress up a little bit more, because you want to look like and make a good impression. Other positions, you need to be more creative. You need to stand out.
Right.
So that's important to know about how far can you go in the spectrum of conservative to more flair, right? And if you don't know, ask the person, because that's going to impress them, because you're doing your homework. You're learning what's appropriate for the workplace.
Okay. And now, what about, like, I've seen a lot of students who have multiple tattoos and they're in like awkward places, like on their wrist or like even like on their finger. Or how about multiple piercings? Like, should you take the piercings out or cover the tattoos, or does it not matter, or does it again depend?
It depends on the job.
Yeah.
If you were going to be a bank teller, I think people would be a little nervous dealing with someone tattoos and piercings handing over money. So you probably don't even want to apply for a job like that unless it's something where you don't have to be working with people. But if it's something where it's a relaxed environment, you want to go a little bit more conservative, but again, find out from the employer what would be appropriate.
Okay. What is the biggest mistake an interviewee can make during the interview, do you think?
That's a good question. I think just not being genuine and saying things that you feel the person wants to hear but isn't actually what you believe or what you hold to be true. So I think just being genuine, being yourself is the most important thing you can do during an interview, because you want the employer to hire you, not someone they think you are.
Right.
So.
I think the biggest mistake is not listening on both sides. So when you're a job applicant, you want to listen to what the person is asking you and make sure you understand what the person is asking you. So that way you can think about it and give a good answer. On the other side, as the interviewer, you really need to listen. because you want to make sure that you are choosing the right person. And sometimes it's really close between two people. So you really have to make a lot of notes and think about, if they're two well-qualified people, how do I make that decision? A lot of times it comes down to details. So not listening, I think, is the biggest mistake, where you just go in and talk and talk and talk, and you're not listening to what's going on.
Right. Okay, so now you've had the interview, and it's the next day. Should you call them and thank them, or should you send an email? What's the proper etiquette for post-interview?
I'm old school. I believe that you should send a thank you card.
Okay.
As soon as you get home from the interview, you complete a card and you name the person, you say something that you enjoyed about the interview, you put it in the mail, and they should get it in a day or two. That makes you stand out from everybody else that sends an email that will get lost, and a phone call doesn't seem as genuine. Okay. So for me, I always tell students that a thank you card after the interview is a way to make a good final impression.
What do you think?
Yeah, what I found is that not as many students or follow up. Actually, I've been a part of, with the admission office, our own hiring process, and not as many people follow up with their interview as you think would. So the card is great. I think especially when you are working or interviewing with an older population, a written card really does go a long way. And maybe if it's someone a little bit younger who maybe is more up on technology, the email is good, but being thorough in your email, not just saying, thank you for the interview, thank you for the opportunity, maybe taking that opportunity to express more why you're a good fit, or what about that company is why you want to be a part of their environment. So maybe being able to take it a little bit further. I think you can be a little bit more descriptive in an email than just the thank you card. So, finding the right fit for what you are applying for.
But I do think in the blank thank you card that's what you want to say.
Yeah.
It's like, remind the person something about what you said during the interview, and something you heard the other person say to show that you were listening to the other person. So, but definitely follow up, because people don't.
Important.
They just kind of wait.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
Okay, so what if you get a question you don't know how to answer?
Well, the first thing to do is ask for clarification.
Okay.
Can you ask me that a different way? Or you could just be honest and say, let me think on that.
Okay.
Just being honest. Don't rush into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's nothing wrong with maybe saying, I'm not quite sure, but I'd love to look more into this. Can we, get back? Can we talk about this again another time? Or again, being honest and being genuine, not trying to put together a few sentences with words that you're not sure they make the right sense, and then embarrassing yourself. So.
And that's the biggest problem. People get nervous during interviews and they just shoot off answers. Take the time to pause, think about your answer, and then answer. And if you don't know how to answer, find out what they need to know, or just take some time to think more about it.
Okay. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. So I'd like to thank my guests, Dr. Sherry Ween and Brittany Barton, for their time today, advice and expertise.
Thank you.
My name is Katie Meyer, and thank you. Tune in next time for another episode of Issues and Insights.
Is what is making news right now. As attacks continue.
The question on all our minds, will giant bugs take over the city?
This is as close as we dare go to this huge blue.
A massive kill of wildlife in the state of Arkansas.
This is just a nice little bonfire like we had earlier.